we're just gonna get your money out, folks.
I got some spare change in my pocket, so thank you, Earl.
If you don't know,
There's no way you can get it.
All good here?
I don't know, I covered pretty bad. They won't know the answer.
I knew this was gonna cost me a quarter, I wouldn't go.
That's stuck in my finger.
My dues next week.
I'll
I ran
allow
out
it.
of money this week.
Sure. You want some joke stuff? Okay.
I think we're ready for the joke ball. Well, we'll decide on that after you tell it.
There were these three guys sitting on this bench. A 70-year-old, an 80-year-old, and a 90-year-old. We're talking about a lot of different things. Of course, their health came up. So the 90-year-old goes, guys, you guys are youngsters. You got to take care of yourself. You got to really be conscious of your health. He said, every morning I take a good pee at about 7 o'clock. And every morning I take a really good poop at 8 o'clock. Then every morning I try to wake up by 9.
Country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside let freedom ring. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Andrew?
Let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you for this new day. Thank you for the food that we just received, and we pray that you would bless it to us. Thank you for those who prepared it. Lord, we are a day after Easter, a day after the weekend that we remember and commemorate not just the life of your son, but his sacrifice for all of us, and then most importantly, his resurrection. Thank you for that gift, that eternal gift that you've given us, and I pray that we can remember that not just this past weekend, but throughout the coming week. Thank you for this organization, this group that gathers. We thank you for the mission of Lions. We pray that you would continue to bless it. We pray all these things in your son's name. Amen.
Amen. Well, we want to welcome back Lion Bill Brochet, and we're going to have a special special report on that for how the weather was while you were down there, hey? And, good to have Todd. Todd's been out of town working, and so it's good to have him back here, so. And a great job today, my goodness. So, we'll, get started with the, school reports. And, we'll start with, Lion Dave. You can give us a little update on your health situation too, would you, Dave? And your wife.
Well, I had pneumonia, and Dot had pneumonia. Anyway, she's been in the hospital for 2 weeks. This morning, we moved her into long-term care in Sioux Center there at Crown Point. She's been taken off the chemo, so you know what that indication is. So keep praying for her. Appreciate that very much. But we're hanging in there pretty good. Great friends, great kids. You know, lots of good people around us. That means a lot. So obviously I haven't been doing a very good job on keeping track of what's been happening at Northwestern. I know they lost most of their games last week. I know the gals lost to Dort and the guys lost to their grandmother and everybody else. I think it was Dome. They do both play at home this week. Our softball team plays on Wednesday at 3 o'clock here, and our guys play on Friday. I think they probably play on Saturday too. But I'm not supposed to look at that stuff while I'm driving. And that's what I did. So I'm glad my grandson is a patrolman, and if they stop me, I just say, "Do you happen to know Ethan? He's number 204." They say, "Go on." That's it.
Okay. You said 204?
204.
Okay, last week, not a real busy week. The boys soccer at Unity played into a 2-2 tie with Hofland, and then the girls and boys track teams were at the Dutch Quad. I think the girls finished 4th of 7, and the boys 5th of 7, which I don't know who's reporting for MLC Floyd Valley, but I'll just let you know that MLC Floyd Valley won both the girls and boys at that meet last week. So this week, weather permitting, there's a lot of stuff going on. The golf team was supposed to play at Okoboji today. Both the girls and boys varsity teams are postponed to Thursday with the golf team. The boys JV and varsity soccer play Storm Lake at home tomorrow, and the girls go and play soccer at Storm Lake tomorrow. And then Thursday, it's the crosstown rivalry soccer games. The boys play MLC Floyd Valley at Unity, and the girls play MLC Floyd Valley at the Northwestern College soccer complex. Also with track and field, the Sioux City Relays are this weekend, and the high school events are held on Saturdays. So girls and boys will both be running at the Elwood Olson Stadium for the Sioux City Relays on Saturday. That's what I have.
I think last year the Sioux City Relays had good weather, but normally speaking, it is lousy weather at the Sioux City Relays, is it not? Oh, that's a bad weather. All right.
Yeah, in conjunction with what you said, as we move through April, that's definitely track season. So there's a lot of things going on, both NDUB and MOC. Of course, we had the college out for their Easter break, and what Earl said, the results of the track meet. Coming up, we have the 7th, should be a Northwestern meet this month. Actually, all I did is kind of just copy my calendar down from the cover there. But anyway, Sioux City Relays, yes, that's coming up. Unity 13th, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah, the Dutch Relays are this Tuesday, and the night relays are next week.
Correct. And then on the 16th, MOC goes to Sioux Center. And the 18th is the Red Raider Open. Sheldon track on the 20th. I believe And then, of course, at least for the high school, they're all trying to get times in for Drake relays, because that's coming up on the 24th and 25th. Then on the 28th, we have a Cherokee meet, which is always a good meet. We have Sheldon on the 20th. So lots of track, lots of, like I said, runners and trying to get qualified for Drake. That's the big one. And then state after that. So that should be some of the nutshell there for the track.
The Sioux City Journal had some nice stuff to say about some of our runners, your granddaughter and the Anderson girl and I think a Hoyt girl. I mean,
Yeah.
these are like people to watch they had in there, so it was good athletes. And then really neat the other night when the 4x1 broke a 40-year-old school record.
Right, boys.
And that may be the question of the day. Who was on that team back in '86 who set the record in the 4x1, which held for 40 years?
Craig DeHaan.
Craig DeHaan, Brent Elma, Stephen Otterloo, and Leon Brink. That's right.
Wow.
So that was a pretty impressive record that day, and those guys beat it, so very nice.
The 4x2 also set a school record back to '86.
86 also, so probably about the same.
One was 74 and one was 86.
Yeah.
74.
Yeah.
Who's on the relay for MOC this year that set it then?
The 4x2, Hudson, when Heswick led off, then Korselman,
Caleb.
and then Logan, and Ravenhorst, and Albert Anchor.
They might set it again with Drake or State or.
They had a really bad handoff in there, so they are really feeling that.
And you know that red Raven horse has a little rock bullet in him, right? That's right.
All right.
Fun stuff.
Hey, maybe just a heads up, Mitch Albers is next Monday, that's been confirmed as of this morning. Thanks to Todd, he's gonna have the Tulip Court on the 20th. And Dave has Rob Gatto coming the final week of April, so
Very good.
that's what's coming up.
All right.
Les?
This morning, or this noon, we have with us Steve. This morning, or today, we have with us Steve and Wade, and we're thankful for them to spend a little time with us and just tell us a little bit about what's going on in our community economically and what we might be looking forward to. And we really appreciate their work and their commitment to making our community a better community. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to these two gentlemen, Steve, Wade, who's kicking it off.
Thanks. As we look around the room, we're going to talk about the development court. But as I look around the room, there are former executive members, administrators, mayors. So I think y'all kind of know what the development court does, but we're gonna talk about that. And one of the things that's starting to happen is we're starting to make transitions in leadership. I think we all have been around. I'm on the tail side of the upside of, but we're starting to see the transitions, and one of the things that I think is encouraging is we're starting to see new leaders step up. For example, now Wade is now the president of the development court. I'm the vice president, and I'm the token bridge, right, from age to youth. And additionally, you're seeing in the city, Earl is retired, and Matt's stepping up, and we're seeing in the chamber as well that Sharon Foudy's stepping into some of the board role. So one of the things that I'm encouraged about from my perspective is we're starting to see the transition. It happens with all of us. We all get older, right? And all want to take a break. So one of the things that Wade and I, we just were appointed to Wade's president, I'm the vice president, in the last couple months. So we're just kind of getting started. But one of the things that we've been trying to do is just go back to what is the purpose and the function of the Development Corp. You know, why do we exist? And what role are we supposed to play in the city along with city management, chamber and things. So work on that's being done, which I'm encouraged about too. Because a lot of times, we get into a role and a habit and a cadence and a style or an approach. So we're working on that. And I think Wade will talk a little bit about what we see as the purpose going forward. And I'd say, so you're aware of it. We're making presentations to City Council on some retail visioning things, but part of that is just taking a look at the structure of the various organizations, the Development Corp, the city, and the chamber being the three primary ones that work with economic and community development. And just making sure we define the roles, because we think we need a little more resource than we have today. The two people that kind of commandeer that on top of city management, the Development Corp are all volunteers, right? And so the people that really run the race for us are Ryan McEwen and Mike Hofland, right? Two people. And we'll talk about some of the things that are going on, and we're finding that, like in most communities, right, you see it a lot and you hear a lot of positives, and then, if you go to the wrong coffee shop, you hear lots of things that we could do a lot better. And how we reconcile that to some degree is we're making progress, but you have to have enough resource in place to accomplish more, right? And you all have run businesses and been part of it, and you can only accomplish so much unless you want to run your people 7 days a week, 10, 12 hours a day. And so Ryan and Mike have been running that extremely hard, and there's been a lot happening, but we're looking at that. So that's going to be in the next couple months. Nothing radical, nothing, that's going to be earth-shattering in terms of change. It's more just taking the foundation and complementing and supplementing it. So we're working on that. But I'll let Wade talk a little bit about the organization and the structure. And again, Wade and I talked about this. When you have former mayors, former administrators, folks and former executives on the Development Corp, we don't feel like we want to cover that a lot. Then we'll move on to talking about the things we see happening that have happened the last couple of years and things we see going forward.
Is it okay if I don't use the mic? Rather use it? All right, a little bit like Steve teed up. I'm relatively new, certainly new to the role inside of OCDC. Been a member of OCDC, for a little bit. But with the changeover that we've had, that Steve outlined, it created, honestly, an opportunity for me to ask the questions and just ask the questions. It doesn't mean that anything was wrong, but why do we do this? How do we connect with the city, and how does it fit with their plans? How do we connect with the chamber and how it fits in their plan? There didn't seem to be a lot of sense to do duplication of resources, and so it allowed me and I think some others to just sit back and ask the question. That some of the changes that are happening are kind of percolating are in no way a message to say it was done wrong previously. I hope that I can be challenged someday to have the memory of who had the state record or the school record in '86, right? All that history, all that foundational work, all that institutional knowledge that's in the room, previous administrators, city council, mayors, all that is valuable information, and is foundational for how we make decisions going forward. We can't lose our identity of who we are and how we got there. It's just a matter of if there's some changeover in leadership, in direction, and resource, and energy, that we're making sure that we're tying this together. There's lots of things that what we call the new group can learn from the experience of people that have done it before, and we want to respect that, but we want to have opportunity for new leadership and energy and ideas to be able to go from there. So really, through that process, we're kind of talking about the purpose of the Development Corporation, and the Development Corporation has no intention of trying to do things on its own. We want to be a conduit. We want to hear what the city needs, what what the businesses need, and how we can support that. Growth is something that we're working on. It's a core belief of the Development Corp. Without growth, will shrink. I think we've seen, go take a tour through the state of Iowa, and we can see towns that didn't grow, right? We didn't do things, we weren't proactive, and without going forward, typically we see those dry up, and then we start losing our kids. We don't retain population, we lose opportunities on there. So that's kind of a baseline, and that's not to scare anybody of it's going to be, like Steve says, radical. We want to keep an idea of the identity of who we are as a community, find complementary things that fit into our culture, to our DNA, to how we do things, be good neighbors. I mean, that's, people come here and go, wow, you have such a great city, and really what it is, it's the people. And so we don't want to lose that. And so some connection points that we're trying to find, honestly, with the growth side of it, first thing we need to do grow is make sure we're supporting our existing businesses. If we lose them, get somebody new, that's not growth, right? That's a net even. And so we don't want to do that. We want to support the folks that we have in our community today. And so there's been a lot of work with the retail visioning, what we're doing for that. Ryan spends time connecting with the business partners, with sit-down meetings. What do they need? How can we support them? And then we kind of hear back from what the results of those are, and then say, how can OCDC fill a gap? How can we support the bigger thing? We're not trying to be a independent organization doing their own. So sustainable growth is on our radar. Honestly, a little bit of change, or what I sense is a change, is recruitment of capital. And so, long time ago, I was in a banker meeting that was kind of inspired by what somebody said. He said, when small communities can really grow is when experience and some capital can run into some youth and some energy, right? Usually by the time we got the balance sheet built, we run out of energy to go forward with things, right? People that they have the energy to run forward with usually don't have the balance sheet, right? So if we can merge those two together, be a connecting point for that, we think that's great for communities. So capital recruitment, not only from private investment, we don't want to stand in the way of private investment. OCDC, I don't think that's a good spot, a good role for them to be in. But if there's a gap, we like to fill that. I think a really good example of that of a couple years ago, if you notice, and others in the room were part of that conversation, we really needed housing. Frankly, there was encouraging some builders to do some spec homes, to do that, to go forward with that. They didn't really have the model, and honestly didn't have the appetite for the risk in order to do that. So the Development Corp, 23 total homes is kind of where we're at. Now we built out and modeled spec building homes for 23 units. We didn't have to be highly profitable with it. We happen to be, not highly profitable, we were above break even. But what I think the best part about that example is we proved that there was a model out to do that. Then, once that got started, got momentum out of that, then the private builders went there and said, yep, we can do that. I want that. We'll do one of those. How do you sell me a lot, right? And then once that momentum happened, OCDC got out of the way. That is not our job to try to compete with the people that can do that. So I think that's a good example of it. We're working on some real estate. When, again, private is not the right fit for that. You can see some industrial and commercial centrums that we call them. Those are OCDC-owned properties in connection with the city, partner with the city, with how that works with infrastructure, those types of things. Housing, if there's a spot for us to do that. One thing that we're going to try to bolster is the use of state and federal funds. There's so many places that there's grants out. We probably didn't do a good enough job over the long term of understanding them all or being reactionary to them if a project came up. So we're really going to try to put some effort at knowing what those programs are, being able to bundle those together and understand that before the project hits to know when we should land on those or how there's a tool for people to do that. And again, partnerships, that's really what it's about for us. is aligning a partnership with existing people and people that want to come in and closing the gap. Happy to take questions at the end too, if it's helpful.
So now we'll maybe talk about some of the specific things that are happening. So if you get a broad picture, and again, a number of you have been involved and continue to be involved, so hopefully that's not anything radically new that you've heard. But one thing I would say, and I think we all realize, is we have to collaborate and work together as a team. And as we start looking at some of the things that are happening, we group things in terms of business development, so commercial, industrial, and retail. And Ryan and Mike work that along with the Development Corp, and the city is heavily involved. If you wonder how the model works a bit, I think some know this, but the model works is the Development Corp is a nonprofit. So we're very pleased to announce that we don't make money. No. We have a couple items that do generate revenue for us, but we try to work to a break-even standpoint. Historically, that's not always been the case. We're putting more money in than we've been getting back. Like Wade said, some of the housing things, we've seen some of that shift. But we deal with commercial, industrial, and retail business development. We oversee housing. And again, we're up here as volunteers on a board, right? Ryan and Mike and the city, Kent Anderson, city administrators, are really the ones that make the work happen for the Industrial Development Corp. We sometimes get involved in some infrastructure things. We do a lot with real estate. A lot of the real estate is handled and managed through the Development Corp. And again, in working in conjunction with the city. We do some property management. If you're familiar with the USDA building right next to the floral market, we actually own that, and we're the property managers of that, and we get rent from that. So that's some of where our funding comes from. But those of you that are in the business of real estate agents, right? And I believe, Ryan, we just put almost $200,000 into that building. So right now it doesn't look as profitable as it used to. Because the building aged, but they've been a good tenant of ours. So we have some sources, property management, and then we get involved in other things, sometimes in community development projects, but like workforce shortage, labor and workforce. We've had some sessions because we talk to the industrial customers and they want workforce. So we're trying to bridge with things in the state that we're trying to get connections and try to figure out how to grow our workforce and supply the industries that are here. Sometimes we have businesses that are troubled. We just came up with a program in the last year or so, I think, Ryan, that we call a strategic revitalization program. I think you all know that retail has been hard hit. There are statistics out there that say by 2013, 35% of all retail in the United States will be done online. There's also a statistic that says by 2040, 90% of all retail transactions will be facilitated by e-commerce. Doesn't mean that they'll be buying online, but it means that, and I think if you look at yourselves, you all do. You go and you look, you research, right? You try to find things, and then you maybe buy locally or you buy online. Amazon's making it more and more easy to buy it online once you've done your research. So there's pressure there. So obviously some of the mainstream bricks and mortar kind of businesses can be hurt, and specifically in small retail or in small rural communities. There's something they say that there's a 30-mile rule, and if there are no available good retail stores within 30 miles of you, the shop online goes from 14% to 45%. So the change that happens, right, when you don't have availability, we're all Americans, we're all consumers. So as we're working with Ryan and Mike and the Development Corp and retail and the chamber, we're trying to piece all that together, right? How do we keep our community thriving and growing? The good news is, from a statistics standpoint, I'll give you some numbers that we've been looking at. You look at retail sales, and we can track it, but the state of Iowa tracks retail sales tax. And just so this is not competitive, this is more factual and understanding of what's in front of us as a community. At a retail sales level, Sioux City does 2.3 billion. Sioux Falls does 7 billion. Okay, you know, now you wanna know the next one, right? The people that are closer. Where are they? And put up your little competitive juices here, right? Sorry, Dave. But I'll start down south first. Lamar's. Lamar's does about 213 million in trade. Sioux Center does 240 million. And Orange City does about 143. Now, the good news is, since 2021, Orange City has grown 35%. Sioux Center has grown about 16%. Obviously, it's a bigger number. When you have a bigger number, the percentages, right? Do the math on the numbers and the percentages. Lamar's has grown 7%, and Sheldon has actually gone backwards 14%. So all of that, I just say that to, when you start looking at how you're gonna keep the community moving and driving, there are a lot of factors that go into how do we compete. You know, and then we go to coffee and like, why don't you have a Dairy Queen Chillin' Grill? And you know, right? All the things, and then everybody knows, well, it's, for our community, it's gonna take a concerted effort and collaborative. It's gonna take everybody working together. So the Development Corp is saying we'll play a role in that, and have historically. For all of you that have been in leadership, we're there. So the number that I just gave you on Orange City, that's from the work that's been done in the past, right? So now we need to look out the front window and say, okay, what do we need to do next? And some of the projects that are really sponsored by the city, the Development Corp, and the Chamber is this retail. What does our retail look like over the next 10 years? And that's one of the forefronts. Housing continues to be a major issue. Getting people, obviously we're gonna get people to move to this community, you know, we need to have the housing. And things are happening there. I know that I was here last week with Lyle, or last month with Lyle, and we talked about the old elementary property, right? So that's in the works. We have now formally closed on 4 lots, and there are another 2 that are out there potentially. So that's starting. There should be some ground moving. Drew and I were at breakfast Friday, and we heard one of the homeowners telling us that ground would move here in another couple weeks, maybe, right, Drew? Something in there. So that's working. As you, I think we've talked strategically when the city put their plan in place, that we talked about moving toward Alton, right? And the old elementary happened. And so we're strategically looking at the properties between here and there and saying, how do we keep our community growing? Because one of the things that you'll see, and Ryan deals with it every day, and those of you that have been in the bullpen with him, when you want a franchise to come to town, they look closely at a couple things. They look at, and I call it stovepipes and tailpipes, but they basically look at what's your traffic count on the main thoroughfares, and then how many households do you have? And for the most part, our community is on the low side of that threshold, and so we don't qualify. Ryan could speak to that because he owns a franchise, right? And he had to work hard to get the franchise here, and they really performed extremely well when they got here, but he had to fight to get them here. So if we get Alton and combine it, we kind of get the mass of population, that we get the traffic counts, meaning the elementary school, they don't need to know that, hey, that traffic is from 7:45 to 8:30 in the morning. They just see traffic count, right? So those are some things that are happening, and again, from the previous leadership, there's a strategy. We just need to stay with it, stay engaged, and keep driving it. So those are some of the things that are happening out there in that area. The Canal Heights, obviously. You know, Marty, the hospital, the city was instrumental in that. It's maybe developing a little different than we thought. You know, we're getting a few more duplexes, a lot more of the duplexes, and not as much single-family housing and some of that, but it's starting to take off. The porches, for those of you that know the whole old elementary property, we kind of went back and forth. The city had moved strongly with Vision Builders. That's all come back around, and they're moving forward out. So we have Canal Heights, we have that whole puddle jumper trail, we had R. Perry that did the houses south of the elementary school. If you look out there way in the corner, the doctors built a house.
kind of out standing by itself, so we're getting real close to joining with Alton. We've got Quick Start that came to town, right? So it's if you hear word, and all of you, I look around the room and all of you have influence. If you hear word, if you hear kinds of things that are happening, people saying, well, don't, and it's like, no, there is a little bit of strategy. You know, we're not all kind of asleep at the switch and, you know, drinking. We do have some ideas, but we also have limited resources, right? We only have access to so much capital. We only have access to so much human capital. So we're trying to move forward, but it's trying to be done in a strategic way to lead the community forward. Other things, I think you see right next to this building here, the Axis Builders, young guys, and they're aggressive. They've shown us some plans of things they want to do that we really can't release, but they have some things, they have big dreams. Now, just to have a little fun, I hope they have the pocketbook that matches the dream, but they have the dream. And so there's some fun things that could happen there with them. From even north of town, you know, I don't even know what it's called, Ryan. I keep calling it the Rakers property.
North Wyland?
For those of you, Paul, we went to school with the Rakers, right? So it's the Rakers property, but it is right, North Wyland.
Yep.
That continues to develop, and so we're continuing to see those things happen in the community with housing. From a real estate standpoint, if you look back over the last couple of years, the Lusing property, everything going with the old elementary property, again, many of you had your hand in that and drove that. You know, even you look at the Netherlands property, the old Netherlands property, right? For those of us that go way back, do anybody remember that Rena DeVries used to have a house there? And Keck Construction used to be there. I worked for Lloyd and Ward and then Russ and Al, which is a sad thing. Russ and Al are no longer with us, right? It's times change, right? But that looks like a tremendous property. Lori doesn't like the color scheme, but it's like, I don't tolerate much of what she's done. It's like, I'm sorry. I tolerate everything she does. Don't say that.
You're being recorded.
Exactly. But that's happening, and it is, Bob and Ellen's is the restaurant that's gonna go in there. It's a guy from Sioux City named Kevin Heiss that owns RTI Technologies that's involved. And he wants to make some connections with the college because he has a big business. And so he'd like to make connections with the college for future employment and stuff. So it's bigger than just the building. But Bob and Ellen are actually his mom and dad. So it's named after his mom and dad. He's got a couple of those restaurants. So things like that are happening in the community. And obviously there's movement with Northwestern College. Again, Development Corp played a little hand, but that was really more private parties. But Northwestern has adjusted their plan and now is moving over to Mulder Oil. Like if y'all, Scott and what they've done with Mulder Oil looks really good. If you've been in that building, it's really, really nice. And that's an addition to the community. So those things, and then on top of those things, the Development Corp gets involved in the daycare. Obviously, if you read the papers, you read things, there's been all kinds of scuttlebutt of the daycare. And I'll speak from my perspective, because I'm not on the daycare, but the daycare board, the daycare fact was, a couple years, the daycare was losing $20,000 to $25,000 a month. It was on pace to lose $300,000 a year. So when I was on city council, when I started, I think Earl could help me or something, maybe less. I think we were losing like $10,000 a month or something, and on a daycare, subsidized, right? It escalated to almost $25,000 a month. So you go from 10 to 25. Those of you sitting in to run businesses, how long do you let that go? And how long do you before you try something that maybe gets you a little closer to break even? We're not saying we need to make money. So that was really the impetus